Hi everyone, welcome to Morning Matcha. Today's episode is super special because I get to interview my cousin, Dr. Angie Sadeghi, who's a board-certified gastroenterologist.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Thanks
I'm so excited to be here today.
I'm so excited to talk to you. I mean, this has been like a long time coming and you're so busy. We've been planning this forever, and every single weekend and every single day you're just doing something, and I'm so inspired by you and you sharing your message. It's been so beautiful to watch, and I'm just lucky to be part of it today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I've always loved and respected you, your work. And I feel like you're one of those amazing souls who was put on this earth to help people.
Aww.
And you do it from the bottom of your heart. So
Thank you.
I'm so lucky to be a part of your
That's so nice. Well,
show.
You too. And as a doctor, I mean, that's really what you do. And I'm really excited to ask you about that too, because when you became a doctor, you weren't plant-based. And that's really a main message of yours, is living a plant-based lifestyle. So I'm curious how that has changed the way you practice medicine now that you're.
You know, it's really weird in life. You're born and raised, and you go into these stereotypes. Mine was the traditional medical space. And I fell into that stereotype, and I was practicing it exactly like our forefathers did. Previous doctors and generations of medical treatments in this country has been basically cookie cutter. You go to school, you become a genius in discovering or diagnosing disease and treating it with pharmaceuticals. And you become so good at it that it's ridiculous. Like, we're probably the best in the world in regards to medical therapy and diagnosing disease and treating it with pharmaceuticals. Mm-hmm. However, I think one big chunk that's missing in our medical society in this country is treating disease with nutrition. Mm-hmm. Traditionally, as doctors, we're trained to think nutrition doesn't help. Nutrition doesn't prevent disease, doesn't reverse disease, has nothing to do with it. It's all genetic. When you have it, you're doomed. Take the insulin, take the cholesterol medicine, the Lipitor, take this and that, and just do it. That's it.
Why? I mean, why, when you were in school, did you even think about the nutrition piece? Like, is that what they would say, or was that just not spoken about?
It's not at all discussed or taught in medical school. Each medical student gets about 10 hours or 20 hours of nutrition in school, and it's focused on really just diagnosing disease and treating with pharmaceuticals. And, you know, as I fell into that trap, and as I was practicing medicine, it came to a point where I'm like, wow, you know, all I'm doing is prolonging suffering and a poor quality of health. Mm-hmm. Am I really treating people? I'm definitely not preventing disease, right? Because people are coming to me already sick. I'm not preventing disease. And shouldn't I just be doing that?
Yeah.
I'm not reversing disease, because all I'm saying is, okay, you have diabetes, here's insulin and metformin for your diabetes. You have high blood pressure, here's some lisinopril for that. And you have cholesterol, here's some Zocor for that.
Wow.
And so what am I doing there? I'm pushing the pharmaceuticals. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I think the pharmaceutical industry is so evil, and they twist their data. So what happens is I'm putting toxins in my patient's bodies. And don't get me wrong, there are situations when that is necessary, but it should be like last resort.
Exactly.
Right?
Like, you know, Truth, my son, has a genetic condition, and I'm grateful that Western medicine was able to pick that up through testing. And then, you know, he's on medication that is really important and life-saving for him, and he takes that every day.
Yes.
So yes, but I also still believe that the agenda as a whole is really for profit.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And you saw that every single day.
Absolutely. And then, you know, another thing that happens is when you start as a physician, I realized when I was starting these people on multiple medicines, that's called polypharmacy. There's a term for that because it causes side effects.
Yeah.
So then I was saying that I'm giving medicines for the side effects. For example, I was giving for heart failure patients diuretics to get rid of the water, but then I'd had to give them potassium because I'm giving them side effects of electrolyte imbalances. And then
That's like our grandpa, right?
yes,
He had a
he in and out of the hospital, right?
yeah, because of that imbalance with
Yeah.
potassium sodium, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to give you a funny story here.
Yeah.
I had a patient who was on the standard American diet, eating bacon and cheese and all that bad stuff because he was thin. And he always told me, like, if I go plant-based, I'm going to get skinnier and I don't
Yeah.
want that. And he kept fighting with me on that. I was like, look, just because you're thin, it doesn't mean that you're bulletproof. You will have coronary artery disease and your arteries are getting clotted the way you're eating. He was like, I just don't want to eat healthy like you're saying. If I eat all these greens and fruits and vegetables, I will lose weight. I need like calorie dense foods. He fought with me on that. And I said, like, mark my word. I'm looking at your blood tests. Mark my word. You will have a heart attack. He kept on eating the standard American diet. I kept seeing him. I kept pushing it. He was just didn't want to hear it. So I let it go. Fast forward 4 years, I got a call from him when he was in the hospital. He said, I just had a heart attack. They cracked open my chest and had to yank out veins out of my leg and implant it in my heart. It's called the
gosh.
coronary artery bypass. So he got the coronary artery bypass. This is a long, brutal procedure. I mean, you don't want that.
No.
It's when the native arteries get clogged. So I'm like, wow, I'm so sorry. I'm like, well, I'm not going to preach yet. Let him come back to see me. I'm like, this guy is just in the hospital. I was like, well, come back and see me, please. We need to talk. He came back and I'm like, so how's your diet now? This is post-heart attack. He's like, yeah, I'm just going to eat the same stuff. I'm like, what do you mean? He says, well, I asked my cardiothoracic surgeon, should I be on my doctor's asking me to eat a plant-based diet. What do you think? He said, well, you have new arteries now. Now you can eat whatever you want.
Oh my
I'm
goodness.
like, so he was eating chips and he asked his doctor, like, what can I eat to gain weight? Because he's so focused on gaining weight that he's eating unhealthy. He said, the physician actually said, eat chips. They help you gain weight.
Whoa.
And I'm like, it's like full of saturated fat, of course. And I'm like, are you serious? He said, yeah, that's what they said. I was like, there are other arteries in your body that are going to get clogged. It's not just your heart. First of all, the penile artery gets clogged. A lot of people have sexual dysfunction and impotence because of it. And that's
the what?
Penile, the artery that feeds the penis.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
smaller than the coronary artery. So a lot of people get erectile dysfunction a few
Because
months
of
before
that.
they have a heart attack.
Oh my gosh.
So that's
I
a
had no
terrible
idea.
bad news. So if you have erectile dysfunction, you need to talk to your doctor and let them know, because that means you're like gonna have a heart attack soon.
And they'll just put you on like some sort of,
Viagra.
yeah.
Here. So do you see how it's Band-Aid therapy for
Yes.
everything? You have erectile dysfunction, take
Yeah.
Viagra. You have coronary disease, take aspirin. And so, like, what I see a lot is these people are on these blood thinners and stuff. They come in with GI bleeding, massive life-threatening GI bleeding, right?
How do they know? So you find out that they have GI bleeding. They have no idea.
Oh, no, they come in with overt bleeding. Like, they have tons of blood. They're pooping out tons of
my
blood, or they're
gosh.
like vomiting blood, and they get hospitalized. Well, they were on aspirin for their heart.
Oh my goodness.
But now they have an ulcer that's bleeding. Do you see how it's a vicious cycle, and you should never fall into the trap
Yes.
of this type of traditional medical therapy unless you absolutely have to?
Yeah. And I actually I really want to get into that too. And I have one burning question because there's this talk of like Medicare for all, and it's important for everyone to have access, I believe, to healthcare. But then the type of healthcare that they have access to is not preventative. It's this exact cycle.
Yes.
And I just want to ask real quick what you
I think that every single person in this country should have some kind of a medical coverage.
Yeah.
I mean, so
It's
I think
important.
that, if, it's just like anything else, like you want luxury clothes, if you can afford it, go buy it.
Yeah.
If you want a luxury car, that's fine. I have a Ford Fusion, but if I could afford it one day, I'll have a Bentley. I mean, that's fine. But I think that it's like every single person and every single child in this country should have, number one, basic medical care, and number two, basic dental care. That should be everybody, right?
Yeah.
And I think as a person, we have the duty to protect people who can't afford to buy it, or they can't afforded because of some mental health or some kind of a medical condition they were born with, or they're just simply unable to because of their background or family upbringing. So I'm more than happy to pay my taxes into medical care for all. Now, I think,
Preventative though
but
shouldn't
yeah,
be a
so
luxury.
we'll get there.
Yeah.
I think there should be like a 2-tier system. If someone's like, well, I don't want to wait to see my doctor, I want some kind of a concierge therapy or whatever, you can buy insurances that give you a little bit of a luxury. It's just like driving a Toyota versus a Bentley.
Yeah.
That's fine. If you're a wealthy person, you can. Same thing with insurance. If you're wealthier, you want some kind of a specialized care, go for it. You should be able to buy that. But basic medical care is an absolute necessity. We need to. Like it's a duty of every single citizen to be able to give and part of their paycheck to provide that for the people who can't afford it. But here's the thing. If we have a medical system that is providing care for every single person, that's wonderful, but it's still not preventative, right?
No,
So that's not just the Medicare or Medi-Cal. It's not a tradition in this country. We need to implement this type of medical prevention for all.
Yeah.
And it's changing the way we approach disease. So I think the basic medical care is not the only thing we need to think about. We also need to think about how we can implement prevention in medical schools and train our doctors to learn more about nutrition to help patients reverse disease or prevent disease. And so I think we have 2 different problems here. Do you see what I mean? And that's not just for Medicare. We need to do that for everyone, even the wealthy who can afford better medical insurance. It doesn't matter. Even they're being treated by doctors who are still Band-Aid treating.
Yeah,
Do you see what I mean?
agree,
So I think we need to go back and look at where is this problem starting to begin with. And I think it stems from medical school teachings and training. And there needs to be more teaching in regards to prevention.
You need to be part of that.
I mean,
you are part of that movement just by being you and practicing the way you practice, but it's like going back and like teaching them and, doing that's so important because people like you there's just so few of you guys.
Yeah.
So, okay, when you talk about these patients or the story that you mentioned earlier, was that before you specialized in gastroenterology, or he was just your patient because of what reason?
He was my patient because of inflammatory bowel disease.
Oh, okay.
So Crohn's disease.
So he had that as well.
He had that as well. So he was seeing me for his gut problems. But the body is all connected. What you eat that's healthy for Crohn's disease or inflammatory bowel disease or IBS is the same kind of nutrition you would eat for your heart. And I was trying to find him a compelling reason to change. And I was like, look, you have high cholesterol too, and that will go down. And you have Crohn's disease, that will get better. So I was trying to tie it all in because I treat the person as a whole. It's not just the colon.
Yeah.
It's not just the heart. Even as a gastroenterologist, I have to be conscious of treating patients holistically through an integrative approach.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So important. So there's so many people that are trying to now look into alternative therapies for treating those diseases you were saying, like IBS and Crohn's and all sorts of things. But can you tell us a little bit about the root cause of those illnesses? Yeah.
Great question. So in the last decade, this is all new information. In the last decade, we have come to realize that there is 100 trillion gut microbiome that live in the gut from mouth to anus. And the majority of these gut microbiome, about 90% of them live in the colon.
And that's your specialty, from mouth to anus. That's amazing.
That's it, mouth to
see
anus.
it all. Yeah.
Yeah, butts and guts.
Yeah. I love that.
But it's like now not just about the tubular GI, the long hollow tube. It's also about the gut microbiome because they have 100 times more genetics than our own eukaryotic cells put together. So imagine how powerful they are. In fact, because they carry more genetics, I could easily say that they are the most powerful organ that we have. And they're the largest organ in our body because they carry so much genetics that their importance weighs more than even the heart and the brain, and everything is
Yeah.
connected, and they live inside the two luminal GI tract in a symbiotic relationship with us, and they have their own DNA, their own genetics, and
That's so
they
cool.
contribute so much to our body.
And our mental health, like, right? I mean,
Yes, and
isn't
our
a lot
mental
of our
health.
serotonin actually created in our gut?
90% of it, absolutely. So gut health and brain health are very well interconnected. But, one thing people don't realize is when you eat food, so this is for the doctors who are like, food doesn't matter. Okay, well, let's think about this for a second. How could you say that? Let me give you the evidence here. When you eat food, the microbiome is the first organ that interacts with the food that you eat. And they have thousands and thousands of enzymatic reactions that they have going on constantly, because they're all these little organisms, right? And they have their own in their own world. Viruses, bacteria, fungi, protozoa, and all that stuff, and another one called archaea. So the food that you eat acts as a substrate for these microbiome, and through enzymatic reactions, they produce molecules and hormones and all kinds of other stuff, right?
So the food that you eat produces hormones.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, like, when you eat something based on if it's healthy or unhealthy, here's how you can choose health or disease based on what you put in your body. Because this food that you're eating is a substrate for these microbiome, and the microbiome either produces healthy molecules or unhealthy molecules based on what you put into your body in the first place. I'll give you an example of that. There's something called the short chain fatty acids. They're so important for our health in repair, regeneration of the colonic cells to prevent colon cancer, to feed your muscles, to activate your muscles, to decrease the risk of diabetes and fatty liver disease and metabolic disorders, all of that stuff. So if you eat fruits and vegetables, nuts, seeds, grains, and legumes that have fiber in them, that fiber gets metabolized by the gut microbiome, and the production of end result is the production of short chain fatty acids. They diffuse into your blood system, circulate from head to toe, and they cause health. They produce a healthy situation. The opposite is true too. Let's say you ate some processed food that has no fiber. Most common example I can use is, let's say you ate a piece of bacon. That goes into your gut, and through enzymatic reactions by the gut microbiome, it produces a molecule called TMAO, trimethylamine oxide, and that causes disease. It digs holes in your arteries and allows all the cholesterol to go into the arteries and clog your arteries. So here's an example of like eating an apple versus bacon. You just decided the minute you put that food in your body whether you want health or disease.
Oh my gosh. So with talking about this digestive tract and everything, a lot of people today are getting information through social media, and most people on social media aren't board certified physicians. And we are taking supplements that influencers are taking. We're doing all sorts of things. So some of those things include taking digestive enzymes. I want to hear your, what you think about taking digestive enzymes that you haven't necessarily been told how to by a doctor, and also things like colonics and other things that maybe you've seen people do that you do or you don't agree with.
Yeah, so that's a very good question. So I'm going to slice it up into three different answers, because each one of those questions are golden. So let's talk about supplements first.
Yeah.
As we get away from bags and bags of pharmaceuticals, we're starting to take bags and bags of supplements. What's the difference?
Yeah.
And people are like, well, this is natural. So is cocaine. Does it matter? Natural herbs can be potent too. I mean, you can't just take it for granted that you're taking a concentrated form of something and putting it in a pill. And for example, zinc is good for you if you're eating it with food. Zinc is good for you, but studies have shown that if you take zinc pills, suddenly it causes dysbiosis or an imbalance of the gut microbiome. Here's an example of why a supplement can cause disease, right?
Yeah.
So I've seen patients get away from the traditional medical therapy, and I totally fully understand why. Because people are like, I don't want to go to a doctor who's pushing pills.
Exactly.
But
Yeah.
then they go to other practitioners who are less knowledgeable about medical care and all that good stuff. They're not evidence-based, and they're practicing, but they're not following evidence-based science. And so then they come to my office with a bag of supplements they got, because these certain practitioners are not billing insurance, so they have to make money somehow. So now supplements are finding their way into medical therapy.
Yeah.
And so these patients are having side effects from the supplements.
Yeah.
And so they come to me and they're like, okay, number one, I just spent thousands of dollars. I mean, these are people who are like living paycheck to paycheck. And they come in with $600 worth of supplements, and they've done thousands of dollars worth of testing, insurance doesn't cover, and they're still not better. Okay, so this is taking advantage of patients who can't afford all these medicines and testing. So where do we stand here? It's a mess. It's traditional medical society has to understand that there's a huge gap, and there's a need for doctors to step up the plate and learn nutrition and prevention, so these poor people don't have to go to people who are not trained in medical evidence-based medicine. So digestive enzymes, most of the time, 99.9% of the time, useless. Why? Your own pancreas, if it's working, it's producing lipase, amylase, and all these other digestive enzymes that your body needs to break down food, right? So why would you take digestive enzymes? If your pancreas works, it works, right?
Yeah.
Okay, now, if you do have pancreatic insufficiency because of history of pancreatitis, because of a pancreas resection, because of advanced diabetes, then you should be on real big doses that are not over the counter anyway. They would be prescription doses. So my question for you is, why are you taking them? If you have pancreatic insufficiency, you shouldn't be on these $5 bottle digestive enzymes anyway. That's a joke.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Other things like, supplements like, I don't know. I mean, I see all kinds of stuff. Probiotics.
So many, probiotics.
99.9%
Talk
of
to
the
me
time.
about probiotics.
It's a billion-dollar industry, and it's all a scam.
Oh my gosh.
Why is that? Because you cannot take one concentrated form of a probiotic, put it in a bottle, and act like your digestive system is going to get better.
Yeah.
There's a huge, there's the dynamics of the gut is that there's candida, there's probiotic, like the bacteria, there's the protozoa, and you can't just can't isolate one and expect it to sit in your gut happily ever after with the rest of the biome. So they did a study. There's a very sophisticated study came out in 2018, published in Cell, that was done in Israel. And that was one of my favorite studies, where they took people and gave them antibiotics and eradicated like 70% of their biome by using antibiotics. By the way, don't take antibiotics if you don't have to. Absolutely have to.
Yeah.
And they eradicated the gut microbiome, and half of these people took probiotics and these other half didn't. And the group that didn't take the probiotics did better than the people who took probiotics. And perhaps there's some kind of a competition going on where your resident biome doesn't want these foreign invaders.
Yeah.
So it disinhibited the homeostasis from
of its
coming
own
back.
body trying to come back.
So after that study came out, I tell my patients, don't take probiotics. The best probiotic is the one you don't take. What you do is you eat foods to nurture the current residents that are living in there already.
Like fermented vegetables?
Not at all. It's fiber. It's so
Fiber.
easy, right? It's so easy. Like I wish I had a fancy way of.
But just fiber,
It's
like just
fiber.
raw veggies.
Anything that has fiber, like fruits. I'm a big fan of fruits. The more fruits you eat, the healthier you are. Fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, grains, and legumes. But mostly fruits and vegetables. And they're rich in fiber, and they have resistant starches that escape digestion in the small bowel. They go into the colon, and they get fermented by the gut microbiome. And that's food
On its
for the
own,
biome.
it gets fermented.
Yeah.
It gets fermented on its own, not because,
And I don't believe in eating excessive amounts of fermented food. I mean, if you like fermented foods, eat it, but don't overdo it, because we don't have any medical evidence now that it's absolutely awesome for you.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of is like, right, our culture, you eat the rice, but then you also have the torshi, which is the fermented, but
Yes.
you don't eat massive amounts of
Right.
torshi. You have
Yes.
just a tiny bit or the tiny bit of yogurt, but it's not like that's all you're eating because now everyone's just overdoing it on everything that they think is
Overdoing.
good.
Like, for example, everyone's overdoing it on the yogurt, and
Yeah.
I'm seeing problems with that. People are taking like Greek yogurt, and they'll come to me with IBS. Well, one of the most common reasons I see that people have been previously diagnosed with IBS is because of dairy. Dairy products are horrible for your digestion, right?
Yeah.
About 70% of the population are lactose intolerant, which makes sense. We're not cows. We're not
Yeah.
baby cows. That's baby calf growth fluid you're eating.
Yeah.
And then it's like giving Truth giraffe's milk. Would you
Yeah.
do that?
No.
I mean, your breast milk is suited for your baby.
Yeah. Yeah.
And each species, like I wouldn't drink rat's milk
Yeah.
or giraffes or elephant's milk. I drank my mother's milk, and that was it for like 2 years.
I know, it's amazing. She
Yeah.
nursed you guys for a long time.
I
You
love
have really
the
good,
traditional
yeah.
moms. You
I
know.
love that she did that.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So we talked about enzymes. I love that you debunked that and probiotics. Now, what about colonics? And
Yeah.
okay, and the difference between like colonics and even enemas, like you're against all of it, or what do you think about it?
So the colon is a long tube. We have the rectum, the sigmoid colon, the descending colon, the transverse colon, the ascending colon, and the cecum. The difference between an enema and a colonic is this, that the enema only reaches about this much. Maybe it goes into the rectum and the sigmoid, and it evacuates the clogged up stools from the bottom part. Colonics tend to go farther up and clean the whole colon. But here's what the problem is. The colon is supposed to be what? Dirty.
Yeah.
It's the dirtiest surface. Like if I just did this and you tested my finger, the tip of my finger, there is some bacteria living here right now. If you go into your toilet and just scrape your hand and tested it, there's some bacteria. But guess what? Your colon is way dirtier than any surface, even the bathroom surfaces, right?
Yeah.
There's more bacteria living in your colon than anywhere else. So the question is, nature has it that we are supposed to have dirty colons, right?
Yeah.
So what happens if we
Clean it.
try to clean it? Well, there is a purpose for this gut microbiome. And as I discussed before, there's 100 trillion gut microbiome living in your gut. And most of them are supposed to be in the colon, fermenting food, synthesizing vitamins and all kinds of things, right? What happens if you go clean them out? Not a good idea, is it? So colonics cause dysbiosis, especially because, there's the short chain fatty acids that are produced in the colon by the process of fermentation of these important gut microbiome. They are produced in varying degrees in the colon. So if you have more short chain fatty acid production in the right side of the colon, the acid-base balance is different than the short chain fatty acid production in the left side of the colon. So acid-base balance is different as you travel through the colon, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, let's just say we become these overzealous humans who we think that we've got it figured out and nature doesn't know anything. We have it figured out better. Let's just do colonics to clean the colon. Well, what happens is we disturb the acid-base balance and the pH balance, and what we cause is something called dysbiosis, which is an imbalance of the microbiome. So why do people do colonics? Well, some think that, I don't know, when they get constipated and they're full of stool, that they want to get cleansed. Well, that's the worst way of getting your colon cleaned. The best way to do it is to be patient and not try to get that instant satisfaction of a colonic to clean your colon, yet start, I'm going to use this, detoxifying your colon by eating a lot of fiber-rich foods, plant foods that stimulate your colon to move and improve the peristaltic actions of the colon. And when your colon starts moving, it moves the poop through, as well as when you eat a lot of fiber through osmosis, a lot of water is dragged into your colon, and that by itself helps the movement of toxins out of your colon. So I agree, we need to detoxify, but not detoxify by some
The other way, yeah.
witchcraft method. that they've been doing for thousands of years. But I mean, now we know better, right? That's tradition. It's been around for thousands of years. I mean,
It
this is not
has.
a new thing. I mean, I believe it started in Egypt or things like that. And
Yeah, I think you're right. I
yeah,
think it did start in Egypt. Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, now we know better through science that we shouldn't disturb this balance. And so eat healthy foods. With every bite, try to nourish your body with healthy foods. And in my opinion, how do you define a healthy food? Something that's organic, no toxins, something that is not processed, not taken out of its original form, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe mildly processed, and I'll explain that what that means, and has fiber. Those are
Mm-hmm.
the three criteria: organic, whole food, fiber rich, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is the best way you can cleanse your body and get rid of the toxins. And by mildly processed, I meant this, like, there's a there's a scale of 1 to 10 of processed. Like totally processed is like bacon and chips and fried garbage food, like, oh gosh,
In and out or whatever, right?
white
Yeah.
bread and things
Yeah.
like that. Whole food, something that you pick off the tree, like you just took an apple off the tree and you're looking at it. Oh, I know exactly where this grew. I
Mm-hmm.
can see it. It's a whole food. Mildly processed is like, for example, you take nuts and you grind them. That's very mildly processed, right? Yeah, it's not its original, but you blended it and you
Mm-hmm.
broke it down. And then a little bit more processed than that would be like tofu or tempeh. Yeah, it's from soybeans, but it's not in its original.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, I call it mildly processed, like a 3 out of 10 level.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a spectrum. You see
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? So my thing is, if it doesn't have fiber, it doesn't belong in my body, and it has to be only mildly processed,
Yeah.
like tofu or tempeh, and it has to be whole food. So
Mm-hmm.
that's how you can figure out, okay, what should I eat? What should I not eat?
Yeah, I love that. And what about going back to detoxing and like all these cleanses and stuff like that? Oh my gosh. And I totally forgot. I wanted to ask you about parasites.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
I,
Oh my
I
gosh.
used to be
there's
like, oh my gosh, I have so many
parasites.
parasites. I'm pretty sure I talked to you about it and
Yeah.
was like,
I mean-
I see the parasites when I get my colonics and they're everywhere. And I don't know. I just wanted to talk about it because when I
Wow,
stopped
that's a
doing
good
all that, I
question.
felt a lot better. But I
Mhm.
also don't know if it's because I was doing all that, but probably because my microbiome is now balanced too. But yeah, let's talk about parasites. And I'm
Yes.
sure people can get parasites, obviously, from traveling overseas and stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah.
So, okay. So that's a really, really good question. I'll come back to it in just a second. Let's talk about detoxes.
Mm-hmm.
There is no magic wand and
Mm-hmm.
there is no overnight detoxing. It's a lifestyle. Detox to me means living a healthy lifestyle where, number one, you take care of your mental health and surround yourself with positive energy and vibration. You help other people and you give, so you feel good about yourself, and you nourish your body with healthy food every day of your life, every single day. And yeah, we all cheat. I drink alcohol once in a while too, and I know that's not detoxing my body, but
Mm-hmm.
once in a while, no one's perfect,
Yeah.
right? So every day, living a healthy lifestyle is nourishing your body and detoxing, and your system, your liver cells, and your body has a fantastic, uh, very like extravagant way of detoxing your body every single day. So your body is built to do that on its
Mm-hmm.
own.
Mm-hmm.
And when you try to intervene, it's not as great.
Yeah.
So it's the way to detox, like I said, live a healthy lifestyle, right?
Mm-hmm.
No stress, or everyone has stress, but know how to manage stress. And like I said, don't eat bad foods.
Mm-hmm.
Eat organic foods that don't have toxic materials in them, and eat nourishing food full of fiber to get these toxins and kick them out of your body,
Mm-hmm.
and let your cellular mechanisms to take over that job, because you
Yeah.
can't do it. And so what people do is they eat, excuse my language, they eat like crap. They eat like really horribly every day, like the
Mm-hmm.
standard American diet, and they have fatty liver disease, heart disease, this disease and that disease, and they go on these retreats and
And then
they're
they water
given,
fast or whatever. Yeah.
like, here, take these detox pills, as if that damage of the last 10 years is going to go away with those detox pills. There's
Yeah.
no magical detox pills out there.
Mm-hmm.
It's called eating a healthy, living a healthy lifestyle. How's that?
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about money, isn't it? If it's not the pharmaceutical industry pushing medical medicines on us, it's the uh, supplement industry pushing supplement on us, and awful people trying to sell their magic detox programs to us. We have to be careful.
Yeah.
There's a lot of agendas out there, and it's all about making money. People get ripped off all the time. So know that there's no magic pill, right? You just eat healthy every day. Parasites.
Yeah.
Okay. So like I said, in our body, there are 100 trillion gut microbiome viruses, candida, or like fungi, totally normal residents,
Yeah.
protozoa, there is archaea, and bacteria. These guys all live with us in a symbiotic relationship. And usually there's good guys and bad guys. There's the inflammatory guys and there are the healthy guys. The inflammatory bacteria produce inflammatory molecules, and the good guys produce good molecules like the short chain fatty acids. There's some kind of a balance there. If the balance is off, the bad guys can win. And they can be called parasitic because now suddenly these bad guys are taking over because you're eating so badly. You're not nourishing the good guys, the bad guys take over. Or, for example, let's just say you take antibiotics and you kill off all the good bacteria and the bad bacteria get stronger. There's an example of that called C. diff colitis that people get from taking antibiotics. Why? Is because you're killing off the good guys, the bad guys get stronger.
And a lot of moms end up getting it sometimes when they're given antibiotics during childbirth.
Yes.
And then they get a C-section, all that. But then they're more likely to get C. diff. And then,
It's a terrible problem in this world.
Yeah.
And doctors need to stop prescribing antibiotics altogether. Unless it's an emergency, life-threatening situation, nobody should take antibiotics.
gosh.
Yes. So you and I are completely on that same page. And then there's a lot of antibiotics in our food because the cows are diseased. And so they push these antibiotics on the animals that people eat, right? I don't, but some people eat animals. So then they're getting antibiotics through that too.
Yeah.
It's everywhere. It's ubiquitous. So at that point, the bacteria that was living with us now suddenly is parasitic because it's causing disease. There's other forms of parasites like Ascaris worms. You could travel sometimes to other countries and get these parasitic parasites that are like worms that do not live in our body. They're not normal
not natural.
residents.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could get those and they become, why are they called parasites? Because they live in your body and they take all the nutrients that you have and they make you ill. So there's that type of parasites. And then there's, other parasites, viruses that could go in there and cause gastroenteritis. So depends on your definition of parasites. What normally people call parasites here are not actually parasites. Like there is a rumor going around that Candida cleanses are good. Like Candida is a parasite.
Yeah.
Candida is not a parasite.
It's like normal. It's part of your body. Yeah.
Normal resident of the body. And I've talked to farmers and I've learned a lot about the soil because I'm getting into permaculture and having my own fruits and vegetables and eating out of my own home. And the thing is, the farmers would tell you, look, there's a balance in the soil. The soil is sick. You can't have good produce.
Yeah.
And how is the soil like? And so they would tell you Candida is an important resident of the soil because they keep a check on the bacteria so the bacteria doesn't overgrow. So there's a yin and yang, and you can't disturb that. And if you do, that causes disease. So it's the same thing with Candida. Candida is not the bad guy. Candida is keeping a really nice balance in there. Yeah, when you kill the bacteria, the Candida can overgrow. That happens a lot in women who take antibiotics to get vaginal yeast infections, and then you have to locally treat the yeast infection. So you see, there's a balance there. And so don't try to do aggressive cleanses, aggressive detoxes, because what you're doing is you're actually disturbing that balance.
Yeah, I think as a society, we're, like you said, we're just obsessed with these extremes because they ultimately seem easier to do than, it's like someone that does yo-yo dieting and stuff. It's like easier for them to be like, okay, I'm just going to do this like for 10 days, than like live a balanced lifestyle and go on walks, drink water, relax. And like, I don't know why as a society, that's the most difficult thing to do. So crazy.
Have you noticed we don't even breathe right?
No. Yeah. I feel like you said that one time. I totally remember like being at a family party and conversation. You were talking about how we like breathe out of our mouths, right? And
I don't remember specifically
yeah,
having this, but how many times did we sit there and take deep breaths and relax and meditate? I mean,
yeah,
because it's all a go. And I feel like women, this day and age, us women have so much pressure on us because our entire value is based upon how hot we are and
hmm,
how good looking we are and what we dress like. And then at the same time, we're mothers, so we're working really hard. And at the same time, there's a lot of pressure for us to be great entrepreneurs or great doctors and lawyers and all that stuff.
yeah.
And
It's like
so,
added pressure with this, like, yeah, being equal. We've added even more pressure to ourselves. Yeah,
so much. So it's like always like I'm actually sometimes struggling with that. It's like,
yeah,
I love being an entrepreneur, but I also have a child. How
yeah.
do I keep that balance? I
Hmm.
love being a mom, but I love being a doctor. How do I?
You do such a good job. I
I
love
try.
you go on trips with your son and he gets to choose where to go. It's so fun watching you guys travel and
Yeah, I
stuff.
love that boy to death.
Hmm.
You
So
know how it
sweet.
is when you have a child. I mean,
Yeah.
you would do anything for that child, and
Yeah.
you're there, your heart and soul. And
Hmm.
but then I also love being a doctor, and
Yeah.
so how do I balance that? And it's a very difficult problem that I feel like we didn't have even 20, 30 years ago. This is a new thing that
Hmm.
has um, uh, come up for many female entrepreneurs, doctors, professionals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's I guess, a lucky problem to have.
It's a lucky problem to have,
Yeah.
yeah. But I think we just need to, I feel like we need to surround ourselves with good energy and attract a certain type of people who help us balance our life. And like for me, for example, like when my mental health is at its bottom and my tank is empty, I think about my mom, who's an amazing influence in my life,
Yeah.
and your dad, who's an amazing man. And I think about what would they do,
Hmm.
and how would they handle this?
Hmm.
And whenever I have stuff going on, I'm like, well, my uncle, who's like 10 times busier, is
Hmm.
doing this. I can do this.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's just keeping a balance and sometimes like sitting down, taking deep breaths, and surrounding yourself with people who elevate you, because there are a lot of people who need your help, and you need
Yeah.
to help and give. But then sometimes you need to nourish yourself
Yeah.
and help yourself.
Yeah. And sometimes that's just being by yourself or just surrounding yourself with people that give you that energy too, like you said. I love one of the things you said. I think one of my favorite takeaways from like this interview is the fact that you were saying just trust in your body's ability to heal itself,
Yes.
because that's not something that people tell you. And it's just so simple and something that you can imagine every single day. Like, I trust in my liver's ability to heal itself. I trust in this. Like, I already have the energy and the vibration. It's all about really surrounding yourself and believing in that, and then knowing that that will come, which I love, because I think that that really relates to most people, especially people listening to this podcast or watching it. But I am curious, like, when someone comes to you in your office and does have Crohn's or does have IBS or is bleeding, where do you start? Like, what do you do in
Yeah,
that
so
situation?
let's go back to what you were just saying because it's so brilliant.
Yeah,
Trust in your body's ability to heal itself. Like we tend to be so controlling, right? We're
yeah,
always trying to control situations, and this didn't go my way. And you watch these romantic comedies and how the woman is trying to control every situation, and then they find out that what happened that was outside of the realm of their control was to their benefit. I was
yeah,
watching a movie last night about this. It was so funny. And I realized like in life, as females, especially once we're really busy, so we try to be so controlling,
with
and
our
we
time
we
and
just
everything.
have to
Yeah.
trust in the universe. The universe will guide us. We
Hmm.
just show up as yourself and do the best that you can, and the universe will guide us. You don't have to have every single second of your life controlled and
Planned.
planned, right?
Yeah.
So we do the same thing with our health, don't we? We try to like go like, oh, I heard vitamin C is good for you, so I'm just going to take vitamin C
Hmm.
tablets and try to control it.
So crazy.
Okay,
Yeah.
so here's the thing. Your body, every single second, right now I'm talking to you, my body's killing cancer cells.
Hmm.
Right now, your
Wow.
body right now is killing mutations. So cells are dividing and growing, and every second there's mutations. And your body has enzymes that chop out this bad DNA piece and they redo it. And how does it do that? Well, when you eat healthy and when you nourish your body with antioxidants, fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, grains, whole foods, antioxidant rich foods, phytonutrients, your body, you give your body the ability to do that. Okay. So, trust in your body that it will do that. Now, once in a while, nature, things go wrong in nature, and sometimes the tumor develops or the mutation grows. Sometimes things go wrong and you develop inflammatory bowel disease or a Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. Now, you have done everything possible in your power to prevent disease, but this happens. Excuse my language, shit happens sometimes.
Yeah. Well, even you were saying like you posted something about a polyp and you were like, I eat really clean, but I still had this.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I eat clean, but when I did my colonoscopy, so that's where traditional medicine plays a role.
Yeah.
When shit happens, there is a thing that you can do about it. We can use technology to help us. Meaning, if it's a tumor, you cut it out. If it's inflammatory bowel disease, you use medicines to induce remission. And what I do is with inflammatory bowel disease patients, I educate them about diet because it's very important. I induce remission with medicines, but then I keep them in remission with food.
Yeah.
If possible. Sometimes people don't respond because they're so advanced that food doesn't work. Then I use medicines to keep them in remission. But yeah, I mean, I'm not saying, you eat healthy and everything's going to be hunky-dory for the rest of your life. I'm just saying medical therapy has its place in the last case. I guess it's the end, what is that called? In the emergencies, emergency situations where nature has failed us, then we can. But I feel like we should do everything in our power to prevent needing these therapies.
Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing with us all your knowledge and for doing the work that you're doing. I really appreciate it. I love you so much.
Thank you. And I love you so much. You're just so amazing. I've watched you grow because, I know
I'm going to cry.
And it's like, I'd never thought in my wildest imagination that I would be sitting here talking to you today on your podcast.
Well, so fun.
I love you from the bottom of my heart.